Do you want me to admit all?
I just did. Yeah. Okay, everyone, we're going to wait just one more minute to allow a couple folks in. We have about almost 100 people, so just bear with us as we get started. If you could start, since we have so many people on the call, if you can begin to put your name and your organization in the chat, that would help us. We want to make sure that we capture everyone's attendance. And again, this is going to be important, especially if we're going to partner together and put together some dream teams. So again, make sure that you are putting your name in the chat. That will be helpful for everyone and include your organization. We really appreciate it. We're going to get started in 1 minute or so. Just to let everyone know that we are currently streaming live. We're currently streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So for some reason, if something happens to your connection, you can also find us streaming. So I think what I'm going to do, we have hit a solid 100 people. So that seems like a lucky number for today. I am going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for attending the informational session for the Morgan Shoal project. We are super excited for our presentation today. We are going to make sure again that we follow a couple of housekeeping rules. Make sure you mute yourself. As we move forward, please, if you have questions, add them to the chat. And we have a couple people monitoring it, and we will make sure that we answer your questions as we move forward in the presentation. So just for a couple of introductions, we have a couple of our partners on the phone. My name is Lori Lipson. I'm with the Public Building Administration. I have my colleague, Ray Gitteroff, who's the Chief Development Officer. And I'm going to turn it over to Vasil from CDOT to introduce himself and his team.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Hello, my name is Vasil Yurka, and I'm a project manager with CDOT. We have also on the line Luis Benitez, who's the Chief Bridge Engineer at CDOT.
Okay, perfect. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to introduce the Park District team.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah White, Project Manager with Chicago Park District, and I'm joined today by Heather Gleason, who's Director of Planning and Construction. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you. So as you can see, we have 3 agencies that are be working hand in hand together for this project as we move forward. And so what we plan to do is to give you a project overview today. In addition to that, we are going to let you know how to get involved in the project and what are the next steps. So please feel free to, again, put your questions in the chat as we move forward. This presentation will be added to our project opportunities page, along with the video and along with a couple of other documents that Sarah will go over in a moment. So again, thank you for attending. and I will turn it over to our partners at Park District to talk about this exciting project.
Thanks, Lori. Really glad to be here today. I'm really excited to share kind of the next steps and get started on the next steps for Morgan Shoal Shoreline project. Before Vasile dives into the details, I just wanted to say that the Park District worked really closely in collaboration with the community a number of years ago to develop this Morgan Shoal framework plan, and we are so thrilled to be here to see this kind of blueprint for the ultimate finished project come to fruition. So today, Vasile will share the details of a little bit of what's in the plan. It's also available online for viewing. And we at the Park District are excited to work with our partners at CDOT and also the PBC to dig into the design and make sure that not only we provide really excellent shoreline protection at the end of the day, but also some new really great recreation assets. So thanks for being here today. And with that, I will hand it over to Vasile.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vasil Yurka, and I'm a project manager with CDOT. I've been working on shoreline and water resources projects for over 20 years, and here at CDOT, we're very excited to be here today and present this great project to everyone. Morgan Shoal is one of many shoals along the shoreline on the near south side of Chicago. A shoal is basically an outcropping of bedrock that in times of low lake levels comes within a few feet of the water surface. The Morgan Shoal is the closest shoal to land, roughly at around 49th Street. Next slide. The Morgan Shoal Shoreline project is located between 45th Street and 51st Street along the Lake Michigan shoreline. Is approximately 4,900 feet in length and is bounded by two projects already completed north and south. This project is part of the larger Chicago Shoreline Protection Project, which is a capital improvement project undertaken by the Chicago Park District, City of Chicago, and Army Corps of Engineers to improve and upgrade approximately 9 miles of shoreline. Next slide, please. What makes the Morgan Shoal project unique is the presence of the shoal itself. While the shoal provides protection from some waves, it also poses challenges and also offers opportunities for some exciting new solutions. Next slide. So as Sarah mentioned, in 2015, the Park District, the City, and Army Corps, using an IDNR grant, developed a framework plan for the Morgan Shoal project area. Included in the process was the local community, elected officials, NGOs, and other stakeholders. Next slide. The plan looked at not just adding shore protection, but also at transforming this narrow strip of parkland into a more usable, feature-friendly space. For instance, a natural pebble beach formed at 49th Street over the years, and we've heard repeatedly from the community during the framework process that the plan should include rebuilding that pebble beach. Next slide. And community involvement was key to the development of the framework plan and its success. A series of public meetings were held in 2014 and 2015 until the framework plan finally took its current shape. And through the design, we'd like to continue the success of the public engagement process with additional public meetings and outreach. Next slide. So a little bit of history of the shoreline. Chicago's shoreline is for the most part man-made, with Burnham Park in particular dating from the 1920s. Several iterations and successive improvements were made to the lakefront park system, resulting in the most recent shoreline projects improvement visible throughout the Burnham Park system today, as well as other Park District improvements such as the Burnham Park Wildlife Corridor or the 63rd Street Dune Restoration Project. Next slide. Sorry, next slide again. The revetments originally constructed were made of stone blocks in the shape of steps sitting on top of wood piles. The current preferred solution for revetments mimics this look, but updated with concrete instead of stone and steel sheet pile instead of wood piles. Next slide. Several storms throughout 2019 and 2020 through the spirit of high lake levels have done considerable damage to the lakefront at Morgan Shoal. This photo shows an active erosion zone at around 48th Street where a scarp has formed as a result of the battering waves. Next. Further south at around 49th Street, erosion toppled the old revetment blocks and damaged the parkland and the lakefront trail, as you can plainly see here. Next slide. More photos of erosion and damage showing displaced blocks and failed revetment. And this is typical of the damage we see throughout the entire project area in the zone. Next slide. So responding to the current erosion and damage, the City, Park District, and Army Corps is currently completing an emergency revetment project consisting of riprap revetment at the most threatened locations along Morgan Shoal. Next slide. As well as concrete blocks to add crest height in the most narrow areas. This revetment is temporary, and materials from this current work will be included in the capital construction project. In addition, the Park District placed trap bags at 48th and 47th Street to stop further erosion. Next slide. So here's an overall plan from the framework plan that came out of the public process. Apologies for the scale, especially on such small screens, but this plan will be made available to all electronically. But let me mention some of the features that the plan incorporated. Of prime importance, obviously, are the protection structures, and these are a mix of concrete step revetment, stone revetment, and the pebble beach. Next slide. So looking closer at the north end, some of the features include an overlook, a large lawn area, and several trails. And on this slide, towards the middle and the south end of the project, we have a proposed comfort station, a pebble beach at 49th Street, along with picnic areas, an overlook at the south end, and additional connecting trails. Next slide. The plan by necessity of protecting Lakeshore Drive creates an additional 7 acres of land that act as buffer from storms and the canvas for the amenities already mentioned above. Next slide. The communities through the framework process envision the space as offering passive and active zones, which can support activities like fishing, picnicking, kite flying, running, cycling, birding, etc. Next slide. As well as necessary amenities like the comfort station I mentioned and concessions, and also educational opportunities. Next slide. Access to this area, north and south, will be continuous access through the current lakefront trail system, in addition to access from the west by way of 47th Street and 51st Street pedestrian bridges. Next slide. Another exciting component for activities is the Lake Michigan Water Trail for human-powered craft, such as has been the historical mode of transportation for thousands of years on the Great Lakes. By providing water access, this project provides a link between other sites along the lakefront for watercraft. Next slide. Going back to the educational component briefly, installations at Morgan Shoal can include educational signage about the local ecosystem, telescopes at the nodes for distance viewing or birding. Most interesting for me is this concept of a wave charm or a sea organ, which is a series of pipes within a chamber that allow the wind to flow through and create natural notes and tones. We've seen this done along the Mediterranean, and it creates a soothing sound that is very interesting. I saw a YouTube video of it, and it's pretty interesting sound. Next slide. And finally, given the location of this project within the Chicago ecosystem, we feel the most appropriate ecological community proposed at Morgan Shoal to be what's natural to the area, which is a savanna prairie system. So now I'd like to turn it over back to Lori for more information on submission requirements.
Thanks, Vasil. So again, we appreciate the interest, and we will talk about what our next steps are. Again, this presentation, I know Vasil went through the slides. What are the things, some of the high points we're looking for? But I want to go over, if you're excited about the project, the feasibility framework plan was done by MWH Stantec, DB Sterling, Intera, M3 Engineering, Smith Group, JJR, Studio V Design, Huff and Huff. So we wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of who has worked on the feasibility framework plan. And these are some of the disciplines, and that's why we put out a big net to determine what scope of work we were looking for. We need civil, structural, geotechnical, coastal, environmental, electrical, hydraulic, landscape, and architecture, and a few other specialties that we will go in. So as you look at all of your colleagues on the line, make sure you're thinking of some possible partnerships and teaming opportunities to make sure you cover all those disciplines. part of what we're looking for is a team that can really talk about their design and how they're going to approach this project. We want to make sure that there is someone on your team that has coastal engineering design of stone protection services, someone who's done inspection and assessment of current shoreline conditions, and someone that is able to make sure that they can go through all the permitting and documentations for the agencies, because this project, not only are you going to work with PBC, CDOT, and Park District, you're going to have to work with the Illinois State Historic Preservation Office, the Chicago Plan Commission, the Coast Guard, working closely with the Army Corps of Engineers, the Illinois EPA, CDOT, and other agencies as well. For this project, I know we have some of our construction project contacts on the line too, because they were excited about the project. The anticipated construction will be between $30 and $50 million thus far. We will be negotiating the fees for the architect in July and August, and that is our goal for our schedule. So the plan is for the PBC to receive submissions. We plan to go to our board with a recommended team, AOR, ERR team. And between Q2 2021 of this year and Q3 2021, we want to do that programming and scope reconciliation. Right after that, we will be going into the design and engineering, which we anticipate will be approximately a year. And after that, we will go into our permit, bid package review, and issue for bid in Q4 2022. And that is our anticipated schedule. So in order to submit, I know we have a mix of folks that we have worked with before and some newcomers, which we were excited about. You're going to put together a team and put together a submission packet that includes a letter of interest. And the reason we want this executive summary / letter of interest, that is going to go to our board with your commitment to scope, schedule, budget, your M&WBE commitment, and it's going to be signed by your principal person in charge of that team. More importantly, we're going to want to see your organizational chart. So we talked about all the disciplines that will be needed for this project. You're going to have your chart. You're going to denote who is an MBE and WBE firm. You're going to provide all those bios for your team members. You might include bio for your firm. So you might have a firm that just does coastal assessment, and you're going to have a bio for that and show their past history. So you want to make sure that you look at all these things to make sure you have the proper expertise. The one thing that CDOT, Park District, and PBC really want to focus in on are team members who have had experience doing this type of project. We are asking that you provide 3 samples in the last 10 years. And you want to cover all the things that I talked about in the last slide. Do you have all those disciplines? Do you have something similar in the scope of work? Do you have something similar in the cost range as well? But the most important portion that I can't emphasize enough that will set the A team from the B team is going to be your project approach and methodology. That is when you're going to give the details on how you're going to meet the schedule that I outlined previously, how you're going to engage the community, how you're going to meet all those things for the project requirements that we're asking for. The one thing that I know everyone will have a problem with, because you're all architects and engineers, are you're going to try to stay under these 30 pages. If you submit something over 30, we're going to cut it off and just give our evaluation team the first 30. So you want to make sure that you are strategic in your submission packet. For that professional and technical competence, If I was part of the team, I would really take a look at these slides and make sure that you have made touch points on all the bullets that you see on the slide, especially experience with City of Chicago design requirements and guidelines. We know that's how that is important. Previous experience with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, permitting, any shoreline work, any national economic development plan that you've worked on. We also, like I said previously, want to touch on what Sarah talked about earlier, which was the community engagement, and your really knowledge of Lake Michigan environment. I know we showed some of the damage that has happened previously. Also, we want to see for that past project experience. Again, if you've had design of shoreline or revetments, harbor, coves, piers, boat launches, all those things, swell, all those things we really want to see. And you want to put together that dream team that can show you have the breadth of work that we're looking for. Again, these are some of the specialized experience that we're looking for that you can see at the bottom of the screen. A couple things I didn't mention was the drainage flood impact analysis, some sediment transport, the material stockpile, and I know Ray will really go into that, and market conditions. As you know, we're changing by the minute, and part of that methodology is going to be how do you plan on phasing the project? How do you plan on procuring things in the design process? How we're going to evaluate the team. As you can see, we have a good amount of people. All of you are qualified, I know, but these are the weights for how we're going to evaluate. So the letter of interest, we're going to look at your work chart, your past experience. But as I indicated earlier, that project approach and methodology is where we're going to see the A team from the B team. So you really want to spend time on that, some thoughtfulness, and really go through some details. This submission that we are requesting is going to be due June 10th at 3 p.m. If that date or time changes, we will add it to that project notification page where you will find a sample contract. That contract is already set to go. We're just waiting to insert whatever team member that is. You can view that on the website as well. Again, this presentation, the sign-in sheet, I don't know if everyone has signed in. I can't tell if we've had 100 people in the chat. We want to make sure you sign in as well. Any of these requests or submission requirements, we will concisely put this in a letter, but it's the same thing I just went over in the slides. But we will have interviews. So once we receive those packets, we will shortlist a number of firms and we will ask them to come in for an interview. That interview will probably go over what was in the packet and any questions that the evaluation team may have. It will be virtual, but I want everyone to know to set aside those dates to know that we're going to have interviews so that we can go to our July board meeting. Again, any questions that you have, besides that we're going to try to answer some today, please put in the chat so we can answer them. And if there are questions that we feel like the community would benefit from, we will add that to the website as well. Again, the website has all our informational details, the alert, the flyer, the PowerPoint will be added by the end of the day. We have a board meeting today as well, so it'll be close to the end of the day. The sign-in sheet, the framework plan where you can blow it up a little bigger for ease of viewing. And again, that sample agreement, so you can look in that area. What will be updated is when the submission is due. And again, that would be by the end of the day. And what I want to talk about, I know we received a couple questions on how do I know if I'm qualified to submit? Everyone is eligible to submit. What we want to do is make sure that we have the best team available. However, if you are interested in other projects that the PBC has, and we have a couple coming down the pipeline for CDOT and AIS as well, you want to make sure you're part of our LIQ list. We will be updating some additional categories to add, but you're welcome to do that. We have one for engineers, and I will again have this posted so you can go to it. And we have a list of architects. And what you would do, you would fill out a submission packet to say, hey, these are all the qualifications I have, and we are interested in any projects you have. But again, this project is open to anyone to submit. And I'm going to, before we go to questions, I'm going to turn it over to Ray Gitteroff to give a little summary from the PBC side.
Thank you, Lori. Again, my name is Ray Gitteroff, Chief Development Officer at the PBC. Lori, may I kindly ask, could you go to slide number 36, where it reads past project experience? And as Lori's doing that, Vasily and Sarah, thank you for the opportunity. Great job this morning in articulating the project requirements and all of the excitement, right? All of the hard work, Sarah, that you and Vasily, that your teams put into this project for more than a few years. Sarah mentioned collaboration, blueprint, shoreline protection, and our good friend Vasily, if I can quote you, that there is a recreational element, that there are challenges and opportunities for new solutions. I think that's an important point that Vasily and Sarah made, in that we're looking for the team to collaborate, similar to what CDOT and the Park District has done. It's going to be important for us to understand, by way of your submission, what sets you apart, right? What does that structure look like? What are some of those features with regard to innovation? Or as you're looking at this slide, you know, the technical aspects of the project, in my opinion, are pretty black and white, right? It's some of the elements that may not be technical, that may be more related to some of the indirect work that you're going to be performing or that you're going to be proposing, you know, including your innovation or your thoughts regarding phasing and delivery alternatives. As we know, the current market and the conditions are extremely saturated. Commodity pricing is somewhat out of control. So your team's understanding of those market conditions and material availability, stockpiles, market conditions, some of those elements that are going to set you apart from the other teams that are going to be submitting to this request. Lori mentioned that there are, I think, 100 participants this morning. Many of them, Vasily and Sarah, you should know, many of them have partnered with us on other PBC projects that we've had a lot of success with. I just wanted to reiterate, you know, that teamwork aspect, the collaboration aspect, so that all of this incredible work that's gone into this is taken to the next level. So I appreciate it. Vasily knows how excited I am about this project. It's got a lot of similarities to a previous project that PBC completed with two of its incredible contractors a few years back at 31st Street. So a lot of similar elements, a lot of lessons learned, and we're looking forward to reviewing these submissions. So Lori, thank you. Vasily and Sarah, thank you very much.
No, thank you. So we're going to, I failed to mention that James Borkman is the contract officer for this project. His name is all over the website, in addition to his email. So what I am going to do is start reading some of the questions that we had in the chat. I had a couple sent to me. The first question, let me scroll down, make sure I can find it, is it an AOR or EOR team that you're looking for? So that's a great question. We are looking for the best team that can provide the services that we are requesting. So let's say the lead may be an EOR, but you have a team of an EOR, you have a team of your specialties, which includes a landscape architect. It just depends on how you're putting together the project. My suggestion would be to ensure that you have enough people to make sure that you have all that specialty that we're looking for and that expertise. It doesn't matter on our end who is the lead, but we want to make sure that that person has the requisite knowledge and experience to handle this project. Another question that we received in the chat is, are the team members that put the framework together eligible to pursue this project? And the answer is yes, they may pursue the project. So we have that on the slide. We have another question. What engagement efforts have already been done as part of the feasibility study and with who? So I'm going to turn that over to Sarah to see. I know she has a little history on some of the community engagement.
Yes, so I can, thanks Lori, that's a great question. I can follow up with the details of the community engagement that occurred back when the framework plan was established in 2015. I wasn't around at the Park District at that time, but it's my understanding that it was a very robust community engagement process. And we know even from last week that the community is still very interested in pursuing kind of the vision that was set forth in the framework plan. So I can absolutely follow up with details of the community engagement and stakeholders and so forth that were engaged as part of the original framework planning process.
Perfect. Another question, what are the MBE and WBE goals for the project? We are anticipating that at least at the minimum 30% participation. You could get that with MW, a combination of that. So another question, can you please go over the scope of work and project deliverables? So I'm going to turn that over to CDOT and then follow up with Ray to go over those. So the question is scope of work and project deliverables.
Sure, thank you, Lori. So the scope of work is basically taking the feasibility plan, which is the framework plan, into a detailed design that's biddable and constructible, including plans and specifications, design reports that back up all the design disciplines that are involved in the design, public meetings, as well as we said, public engagement. We're basically looking for all the design, all the field work necessary at the geotechnical phase, site surveys, hydro, whatever, to get us to biddable plans and specs to put on the street for constructing Morgan Shoal project. I hope that's broad enough.
Ray, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was waiting for Vasily to finish. Thank you, Vasily. Lori, if you wouldn't mind going to slide number 32 quickly. As Vasily stated, we're looking for a complete set of construction documents. And as Lori alluded to earlier during the session, you know, our anticipated month in which we plan on appointing the EOR or the AOR. And I'll wait for Lori to get to that slide really quickly.
Can you tell me what's on that slide?
It's the EOR, AOR appointment, programming, scope reconciliation. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So the expectations for deliverables, and Vasily, thank you for summarizing that. Upon appointment, there is a period of time in which the team that we select that gets approved will be part of our team. The programming and scope reconciliation is an important part of understanding those deliverables. Once that's completed, we're going to be expecting to work through schematic design, design development, all while we are working with the community, working with our partners at the Park District and at CDOT to ensure that stakeholder input is obtained and incorporated as part of our programming and scope reconciliation, so that we'll have specific kickoff meetings by phase as we complete the programming and scope reconciliation, work into schematic design, design development documentation, work through the design milestones up through construction document preparation, including the specification development that Vasily discussed. So I hope that clarifies some of the question, Lori.
Sounds good. Another question is, will this video be posted? It will be posted on that opportunities page that I showed. If you received our PBC alert, if you click on that, you will go directly to the opportunities page. It will be posted there. We received another question: can non-LIQ firms submit? So for those who joined late, the PBC has a list of EORs, excuse me, and AORs that are already part of our LIQ list, but this is open to anyone. And again, what I have a great number of people on the call is that we will have additional work coming up, and it will be fast and furious, that we will be looking for architects and engineers for additional projects. So you want to make sure that you want to be added to our list. And what the LIQ list, for those who are not aware, does, it provides us a list and pool that we can pull from for our projects, and we can appoint them at our board meeting. And so what happens is, if, for example, we are doing a bridge or a viaduct that's coming up, and we see that there's 7 engineers that have actually worked on that previously, we will look at that pool and do a mini informational session just based on that group that already has the qualification. So you want to make sure you do that. Where will the slideshow be posted? Again, on the opportunities page, the same page where this video will be posted. Who is the main client? CDOT Parks PBC. That's a great question, and that's from one of our AORs that's worked on a project previously. The PBC will hold the contract, and we will make sure that we have updated our clients at CDOT and Park District. But we are collaborating as a team to make sure that we have all the things that we're looking for. But the answer to the question is, you will have a contract with the PBC, and we're going to make sure that all the goals and the recommendations are followed. You mentioned MBEWB goals, but will the team also need to accommodate federal goals as well? So I got a couple questions about MBEWB, DBE. That will probably be the issue when we get to the construction. But right now it's M and WBE goals for the design portion of this project. Regarding the email submission format, should this be an attachment? If so, is there a file limit or a download link acceptable? We are hopeful it will not hit our max email capacity, but if it does, a link is definitely fine. We will make sure that when we receive your submission, we're able to open it. So make sure that you hit that June 10th date. If that date changes, it will be on that project opportunities page. Thank you, James. Did I miss any chat questions, or does anyone have any questions they want to unmute themselves?
Yeah, this is Jamal Grinawi from WSP. So you're looking at doing phase 1 and phase 2 preliminary engineering and final design in 12 months based on the schedule?
Yeah, I think Vasily can answer this question. I know you're using some of the CDOT nomenclature, so he's asking if that's phase 1 and 2.
Hi, Jamal. It's so phase one has essentially been done, but quite a while ago with the Army Corps. So this is more just refreshing any phase one documents needed, but it's really a detailed design phase two.
Okay,
And I like to bring your attention that this is a federal project. So when we apply for permits with the Army Corps, we get a different kind of treatment on the permitting side because it is a federal project already that they are involved with.
perfect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, concerns, questions about the timeline, what we're looking for?
Lori, it's Ray. Just in reference to our LIQ database, we, the Public Billing Commission, rely on that database. And that database is populated by the information provided in your LIQs. If there are any professional service providers on the call that are wondering when should you or could you update your LIQs, the answer is yes, and as often as you're making changes to your operations. Oftentimes, the Public Billing Commission will be unaware. I see a lot of our friends on the phone call, Lori, that you mentioned that we worked with in the past. You may have changed your operations. You may have entered into another specialized area of work. You may have hired new staff that have expertise in certain areas of work that we're unaware of. If you don't update your LIQs on a regular basis and submit them, it works against you because, as Lori stated, some of this other work, clearly this is the most important project that we have, right, Lori? But we have other work as well, and we're not going to have time to contact 140 architects and engineers to say, hey, is this what you do? Did you change anything? Chris, I'll pick on you for a minute. I see you. I hope you're doing well. Chris, what are your operations? What have you worked on? What is your experience different? How is that different now than what you submitted previously? Renovations, new work, municipal buildings, school buildings, park district projects. Those elements are critical for us because, again, our database is populated and informed by your most recent LIQ submission. Lori, I just wanted to make that point because oftentimes we may be unaware, and some of the architects and engineers on this phone call may say, wait a minute, how did PBC decide on this provider versus that provider for this project? I've been doing this for the last 5 years. But we won't know unless you submit that information. Lori, that's all I wanted to say, because that's an important point to all of the professional service providers on this phone call. And again, Lori mentioned, and she reiterated that for the purposes of this submission, whether you have a letter of interest and qualification or not doesn't preclude you from submitting with a team on this project, which is also important. Thank you, Lori.
Sure, and thank you, Ray. We have a couple of other questions. One, it says landscape architects can't sign up for the LIQ list. Is that possible? Yes. So in our LIQ list, you'll see several categories. You'll see, kindergarten through high school, municipal buildings, do roof assessments, any of those categories. But then there's a couple at the end that say other. You can put whatever your specialty is and submit your LIQ accordingly. There was another question that says, is the LIQ evaluated with the submission? No, what happens is we look at the matrix. So I'll give a good example with a school, for example. If you've done 7 high schools, we'll look at the list and we'll say, all of these firms have at least 3 experiences with building high schools, design and engineering for high school. And we will look at that and put them in a pool. So it's not the evaluation. Again, it's just letters of interest to say, hey, we want you to know we're interested on projects. Please keep us in mind. We have experience in these 15 areas. So you want to make sure you put that. Also received a question about teaming. So at the PBC, we encourage teams. You can do that by partnering together and just putting together a holistic team, or you can put together a joint venture team. What I tell people, because sometimes they don't want to solidify until they know for sure that they're the designated one, you can put in your submission that, hey, these are the 10 people we are anticipating that work on this project. If we are chosen, we will enter into a joint venture agreement. This is what the shell of the agreement looks like. And those are some of the questions we'll talk about when we get to the interview stage. But you definitely can team together, however your parent is, and subcontractors, or you can do a joint venture, or you can say at this moment in time, I know these 5 members are going to work together. We're trying to put something structurally together that is feasible for the entire team. But if you emphasize, hey, maybe I have a mentor-mentee program, maybe that I'm really focusing on an all MBE team, maybe we're focusing on an all WBE team. Those are the things that we're looking at and being evaluated on. So we want to make sure that happens. We have another question. Will this interview be conducted in person? It will be via Zoom. I know we've had a couple of guideline changes, a couple of weeks, but we anticipate that it will be virtual for the time being. If that changes, we will definitely add it as well. Okay. James, did I miss any questions in the chat?
Not that I can see.
Okay. So again, we really appreciate you attending this morning. We will add the video to the website. Any additional information will be located on that link. We look forward to everyone participating. We are excited and put those teams together. The sign-in sheet, the reason we wanted to make sure that we post the sign-in sheet, those are some members of some teams that you may not have thought about, especially for those specialized services. So make sure that you take a look at that sign-in sheet as well that we will add to the website. So we appreciate it and thank you so much for